Emily Harrington stared at the broken vase on the hardwood floor, pieces scattered like the remnants of her patience. It was her grandmother's, a family heirloom that had survived 2 world wars only to meet its end during another senseless argument between her teenage children. She took a deep breath, counting to 10 as her therapist had suggested. It didn't help. "Mom, it was Ryan's fault." 14-year-old Lily stood with her arms crossed, auburn hair falling across her face, partially hiding the accusation in her eyes. "He pushed me." Ryan, 16 and already taller than his mother, leaned against the doorframe with practiced nonchalance. "She was in my room again, going through my stuff. What was I supposed to do?" Emily closed her eyes momentarily. The kids had been at each other's throats ever since the divorce 6 months ago. She thought they'd be past this by now, but instead, the tension seemed to grow with each passing week. The modest 3-bedroom house in suburban Boston, once filled with laughter, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. "I don't care whose fault it was," Emily said, her voice strained from the effort of staying calm. "That vase was irreplaceable. Like Dad, right?" Ryan muttered, just loud enough for her to hear. The comment landed like a slap. Emily felt her cheeks flush. "That's enough, Ryan. Go to your room. You're grounded." "Whatever." He pushed past her, deliberately bumping her shoulder on the way out. A door slammed moments later, shaking the family photos that still included Robert, her ex-husband, their smiles now seeming like artifacts from another life. Emily knelt to pick up the larger pieces of the vase, careful not to cut herself. Lily stood watching, her anger gradually giving way to guilt. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said quietly. "I know it was special to you." Emily nodded but didn't trust herself to speak. Everything felt special now, weighted with memories of better times. She had met Robert during her 2nd year at Boston University. They'd married young, had kids early, and built what she thought was an unshakable life together. Until last Thanksgiving, when Robert announced he'd fallen in love with someone else, his 29-year-old assistant, Claire. The kitchen phone rang, startling them both. Lily answered it, her expression immediately souring. "It's Dad. He wants to talk to you." Emily took the receiver with reluctance. "Robert, now's not a good time." "It never is anymore, Em." His voice was familiar yet distant, like a song she used to know. "Listen, there's been a change of plans. I can't take the kids this weekend." "You promised them, Robert. This is the 3rd time you've canceled last minute." I know. Claire's parents are in town, and spare me the details." Emily turned away from Lily, lowering her voice. "Your kids need stability right now. They need their father." "I'm still their father," he said defensively. "This is just one weekend." "It's never just one weekend with you." Emily fought to keep her composure. "The kids notice, Robert. They're acting out. Ryan's grades are slipping, and Lily, she's barely talking to anyone except her phone. Don't put this all on me. You're the one who refused marriage counseling." Emily laughed bitterly. "Counseling wouldn't have fixed the fact that you were sleeping with your assistant for 6 months." There was silence on the other end, then a sigh. "I'll call the kids tomorrow to apologize. Don't bother. Just show up next weekend. That's all they want." After hanging up, Emily found Lily in the living room, pretending she hadn't been listening. The TV was on, but her eyes were red-rimmed. Emily sat beside her, feeling the weight of single parenthood pressing down harder than usual. "Your dad can't make it this weekend," she said simply. Lily shrugged, feigning indifference. "Whatever. I have a sleepover at Jessica's anyway." Emily wanted to press, to make her daughter talk about the hurt she was clearly feeling, but she was so tired. The double shifts at the hospital where she worked as a nurse, the constant arguments at home, the silent meals where everyone stared at their phones, it was wearing her down to nothing. The sound of Ryan's music thumped through the ceiling, loud enough to make the light fixtures vibrate. Another message from Robert. Emily glanced at her phone. A text reading, "We'll figure this out, Em. I promise." Promises. Robert had always been full of them. Promised to love her forever. Promised to always put family first. Promised to grow old together in the Victorian house they'd bought as newlyweds and had to sell after the divorce. Emily thought about the upcoming parent-teacher conference at Brookline High, where she'd have to sit beside Robert and pretend they were still a team. She thought about the mortgage payment that was late again. She thought about her mother's constant calls from Florida, pushing her to stop moping and get back out there. The doorbell rang. Emily wasn't expecting anyone, and for a moment, she considered not answering. But then she saw Margaret Lewis standing on her porch through the window, holding what looked like a casserole dish. Margaret lived 2 doors down, a retired English teacher whose husband had died 3 years ago. She'd been bringing over food regularly since hearing about the divorce, claiming she always cooked too much for one person. "I brought lasagna," Margaret said when Emily opened the door. "And some of those brownies Ryan likes." "You didn't have to," Emily started, but Margaret waved her off. "Let me feel useful," she said, stepping inside. "Besides, I wanted to remind you about the neighborhood meeting tomorrow. The city's talking about turning the old community center into condos." Emily had completely forgotten. Just one more thing to add to her mental load. But Margaret's kindness, small as it was, felt like the first good thing to happen all day. "I'll be there," Emily promised, setting the lasagna on the counter. Later that night, after both kids were in bed, Emily sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine, staring at the family budget spreadsheet on her laptop. The numbers didn't add up, no matter how many times she adjusted them. Something would have to give, and soon. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Kate. "How's it going? Still coming for Sunday dinner?" Emily typed back, barely surviving. "But yes, we'll be there." She closed the laptop, deciding tomorrow's problems could wait until tomorrow. As she passed Ryan's room, she noticed his light was still on. She knocked softly. "Come in," he called, surprisingly civil. Ryan was sitting on his bed, a sketchbook open on his lap. He'd been drawing since he was little, but lately had stopped sharing his work with her. Emily sat on the edge of his bed, careful to respect the invisible boundaries teenagers seemed to need. "I'm sorry about earlier," he said, not looking up from his sketch. "About what I said." Emily's heart softened. "I know things have been tough." Ryan nodded, then hesitantly turned the sketchbook toward her. It was a drawing of their old house, rendered with surprising detail. "I miss it sometimes," he admitted. "Not just the house. Everything." Emily put her arm around him, and for once, he didn't pull away. "Me too," she said. "But we're going to be okay, Ryan. All of us. It's just going to take some time." But as she walked back to her own room, Emily wondered if that was true or just another empty promise to add to the collection. The community center was packed with concerned neighbors, all talking over each other as the city developer stood at the front, attempting to explain the benefits of luxury condominiums. Emily sat near the back with Margaret, feeling out of place among people who seemed to have their lives together. She'd managed to make herself presentable, but barely. Ryan had refused to come, and Lily was at Jessica's house again, her second sleepover this week. "The property values will increase dramatically," the developer, a slick man in an expensive suit, explained with rehearsed enthusiasm. "Think about what that means for all of you as homeowners." "What about those of us who rent?" someone called out. "Where are we supposed to go when landlords raise prices to match?" Emily fidgeted with her coffee cup, thinking about her own precarious financial situation. The rent increase notice had arrived yesterday, 15% starting next month. It might as well have been 100%. She couldn't afford either. Margaret leaned over. "That's Tom Harrison," she whispered, nodding toward a man who had stood up to speak. "He's on the city council, very passionate about preserving community spaces." Emily watched as Tom, tall with salt and pepper hair and a teacher's authoritative voice, made a compelling argument for keeping the center. There was something both confident and kind in his manner that drew her attention. It had been months since she'd noticed a man in any capacity beyond functional interaction. After the meeting, Emily found herself lingering, reluctant to return to her empty house. The kids would be with Robert tomorrow, assuming he didn't cancel again, and the thought of another weekend alone made her stomach knot. First time at one of these meetings? Tom appeared beside her as she was pouring another cup of mediocre coffee. Emily nodded. "My neighbor Margaret dragged me along. I live on Maple Street." "Ah, Margaret's great. Been fighting the good fight in this town for decades." He smiled, extending his hand. "Tom Harrison. I teach history at the high school." "Emily Harrington. I think my son Ryan might be in your class, actually. Sophomore. Usually his headphones permanently attached to his skull." Recognition dawned on his face. "Right, Ryan. Talented artist. Though he seems to prefer drawing in his notebook to listening to my lectures on the Civil War." Emily felt a flush of both embarrassment and surprise. "I'm sorry about that. But you're right, he is talented. I just wish he'd focus more on his academic subjects." "Don't apologize. Different kids have different gifts." Tom glanced around the emptying room. Would you want to grab a real coffee somewhere? The night is young, and this stuff is terrible. The invitation caught Emily off guard. She hadn't been on anything resembling a date since before the divorce. I should probably get home. Just coffee, Tom assured her. Plus, I'd like to hear a parent's perspective on the community center. Most of my students use it after school. Half an hour later, they were sitting at a corner table in Rosie's cafe, and Emily was surprised by how easy Tom was to talk to. Their conversation flowed from the community center to teaching to parenting teenagers. My daughter Zoe is in college now, Tom explained. But those high school years nearly broke me. Single parenting is no joke. You're a single dad? Widower. Almost 5 years now. He said it matter-of-factly, but Emily caught the flicker of old pain in his eyes. Cancer. Zoe was 14 when her mom died. I'm so sorry, Emily said, feeling a new connection to this man she'd just met. My kids are 14 and 16. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago, but sometimes it feels like I've been doing this alone for much longer. Tom nodded understandingly. The worst part for me was realizing I couldn't be everything Zoe needed. I couldn't replace her mother. That's exactly it, Emily said, relieved that someone finally got it. I feel like I'm failing them every day. When Emily finally got home, it was past midnight. The house was dark except for the glow of Ryan's computer screen visible under his door. She should tell him to go to bed, but she didn't have the energy for another argument. Instead, she tiptoed to her room, a small smile playing on her lips as she replayed her conversation with Tom. The next morning, chaos erupted when Robert arrived early to pick up the kids. Emily was still in her robe, hair uncombed, kitchen a mess from breakfast. Looks like you had a late night, Robert commented, taking in her appearance with a raised eyebrow. Don't start, Emily warned, pouring coffee into a travel mug. Kids, your dad's here. Lily appeared with her overnight bag, but there was no sign of Ryan. Robert checked his watch impatiently. We need to get going. Claire's waiting in the car, and we have reservations for lunch. Emily felt a flash of irritation. Of course you do. I'll get Ryan. She found him still in bed, blanket pulled over his head. Ryan, your dad's here. I'm not going, came the muffled reply. What do you mean you're not going? He's waiting downstairs. Ryan emerged from the blankets, eyes red as if he hadn't slept. I don't want to spend the weekend pretending everything's fine while Claire shows off her stupid engagement ring and talks about wedding plans. Emily felt like she'd been punched. Engagement ring? Wedding plans? Ryan's expression shifted from defiance to regret. You didn't know? I thought. Dad said he was going to tell you. Emily's hands trembled as she gripped the doorframe. He didn't tell me anything. Back downstairs, she confronted Robert in the kitchen, keeping her voice low. When were you planning to mention you're engaged? Robert had the decency to look uncomfortable. I was going to tell you this weekend, actually. It just happened. 6 months, Robert. It's been 6 months since our divorce was finalized. Emily struggled to keep her composure. How long were you planning to cheat before you told me? If I hadn't found those texts, can we not do this right now? Robert glanced toward the living room where Lily was waiting. Where's Ryan? He's not coming. He doesn't want to celebrate your engagement. Robert's face hardened. Did you tell him to say that? No, I didn't even know about the engagement until 5 minutes ago. Well, he can't just refuse to see me. I have rights. Emily laughed bitterly. Rights? Now you care about your rights as a father? Where were those concerns when you were missing parent-teacher conferences and canceling weekends? Their raised voices had drawn Lily back to the kitchen. She stood in the doorway, eyes wide. Can we just go, Dad? Please. Robert looked between his daughter and ex-wife, then nodded curtly. Fine. Tell Ryan I'll call him later. After they left, Emily sank onto a kitchen chair, the house suddenly too quiet. She thought about calling her sister Kate, but stopped herself. Kate had never liked Robert and would just say, I told you so, in various sympathetic ways. Instead, she texted Margaret, need wine and commiseration. Free tonight. While waiting for a response, Emily wandered into Ryan's room. He was sitting at his desk, headphones on, sketching furiously. She tapped his shoulder, and he startled. Sorry, she said as he removed the headphones. I just wanted to check if you're okay. Ryan shrugged. I'm fine. Are you? The question, so direct and adult-like, caught her off guard. I will be, she said honestly. It's just a surprise. I hate him sometimes, Ryan admitted, looking down at his sketch. It was dark, angry lines that formed no clear image. But then I feel guilty for hating him. Emily sat on the edge of his bed. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about your dad. I have pretty complicated feelings about him myself. Ryan smiled faintly at that. Yeah, I bet. He hesitated, then added, Jessica's mom said you were at Rosie's last night. With Mr. Harrison. Emily felt her face warm. It wasn't. We just had coffee after the community meeting. It's okay if you date, Mom, Ryan said, surprising her again. I just don't want another dad. One is complicated enough. Later that evening, Emily sat on Margaret's back porch, wine glass in hand, recounting the day's revelations. The older woman listened intently, offering occasional sympathetic noises. The worst part is, I'm more angry than hurt, Emily confessed. What does that say about me? It says you're healing, Margaret replied simply. When my Harold left, and dying is just another kind of leaving, dear, I was devastated. Then furious. Furious that life went on without him, that the world expected me to just keep going. Emily nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. When does it get easier? It doesn't get easier, Margaret said, refilling their glasses. It gets different, and different can be good eventually. As if on cue, Emily's phone buzzed with a text from Tom. Thanks for the conversation last night. Would you be interested in helping with the Community Center Preservation Committee? No pressure, but we could use someone with your perspective. Margaret peered over at the phone and smiled knowingly. Different, she repeated, can be very good indeed. Emily typed back her response, feeling something unfamiliar but not unwelcome fluttering in her chest. It wasn't hope exactly, but maybe a cousin to it. A possibility. And for now, that was enough. Sunday dinner at Kate's house had been a tradition since their parents moved to Florida 3 years ago. Emily's sister lived in a spacious colonial in Newton with her husband Michael and their twin boys, now 10 years old. Everything about Kate's life seemed meticulously planned and executed, from her successful dental practice to her perfectly behaved children. Today, as Emily helped set the table, she tried not to compare their lives too explicitly. Ryan's been sketching a lot lately, Emily mentioned, arranging silverware beside Kate's wedding china. His art teacher thinks he's good enough for some summer program at the Museum of Fine Arts. Kate nodded absently while checking something in the oven. That's nice. Though I hope he's not neglecting his core subjects. Michael says art degrees are basically useless in today's economy. Emily bit her tongue. Michael, a financial advisor with opinions on everything, was currently in the living room with the kids, likely lecturing them about college savings accounts. He's 16, Kate. He's exploring his interests. Of course, Kate conceded, though her tone suggested otherwise. How are things with Robert? Still being difficult about the support payments. Emily hesitated, then decided to share the news. He's engaged to Claire. They're planning a June wedding. Kate nearly dropped the serving dish she was holding. What? That absolute. She glanced toward the living room and lowered her voice. That's not even a year since your divorce. 6 months, Emily confirmed. Though apparently they're very much in love. She couldn't keep the sarcasm from her voice. Kate's eyes narrowed. I never liked him, even in college. Remember when he forgot to call you for a week during spring break senior year? Yes, because you remind me every chance you get. Emily sighed. Anyway, it's fine. I'm fine. The kids are adjusting. And what about you? Any prospects? Kate waggled her eyebrows in a way that made Emily laugh despite herself. Actually, I met someone. Sort of. Emily told her about Tom, downplaying it as much as possible. We're just working on the community center project together. Kate looked skeptical. A history teacher, huh? Well, at least he's not likely to run off with his 20-something assistant. Before Emily could respond, her phone rang. It was Lily, who was supposed to be with Robert until tonight. Mom. Lily's voice was tight, like she was trying not to cry. Can you come get me? Please. Emily immediately went on alert. What happened? Are you okay? I'm fine, just, please come. I'm at Dad's apartment. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Emily promised, already heading for her purse. Kate followed her to the door. What's going on? I don't know, but Lily wants to come home early. I need to go get her. Michael appeared from the living room, Ryan and the twins trailing behind him. Leaving already? We haven't even eaten. Family emergency, Kate explained tersely. Ryan looked up, concerned. Is it Lily? What happened? I don't know yet, Emily said, trying to sound calmer than she felt. You stay and have dinner. I'll text you when I know more. I'm coming with you, Ryan insisted, already heading for the door. 20 minutes. Later, Emily parked outside Robert's building, a modern high-rise that cost more per month than her entire mortgage. Ryan had been silent the whole drive, staring out the window with a clenched jaw. Wait here, Emily told him as she got out of the car. I'll be quick. No way, Ryan said, unbuckling his seatbelt. I'm coming too. Emily didn't have the energy to argue. They rode the elevator to the 12th floor in tense silence. Robert answered the door almost immediately, looking harried. Thank God you're here, he said, stepping aside to let them in. She's locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. The apartment was stylishly furnished in a way that suggested Claire's influence. Too many throw pillows, abstract art on the walls, nothing like the home they'd shared as a family. Claire herself was nowhere to be seen. What happened? Emily demanded. Robert ran a hand through his hair. I don't know. She was fine earlier. We went shopping for a dress for the engagement party, and then she just flipped out. Ryan had already headed down the hallway. Lily, he called, knocking on what must be the bathroom door. It's me. Emily followed, leaving Robert in the living room. She could hear Lily's muffled voice responding to Ryan, though she couldn't make out the words. Let me talk to her, Emily said, and Ryan stepped aside, giving her a significant look she couldn't quite interpret. Lily, honey, it's Mom. Can you open the door? After a moment, the lock clicked, and Lily appeared, mascara streaked down her face. Can we go home now? Of course. Emily put an arm around her daughter's shoulders. Do you want to tell me what happened? Lily shook her head, avoiding eye contact. Not here. As they walked back to the living room, Claire appeared from what must be the home office, her expression carefully neutral. She was beautiful in the way glossy magazine ads were beautiful, flawless, but somehow unreal. Is everything okay? She asked, not quite meeting anyone's eyes. We're leaving, Emily said shortly. Ryan, get Lily's bag. Robert stepped forward, arms outstretched. Lily, sweetheart, please talk to me. Whatever it is, we can work it out. Lily pressed closer to Emily, shaking her head again. I just want to go home. The drive back was silent except for Lily's occasional sniffles from the back seat. Emily kept glancing in the rearview mirror, noting how Ryan had put his arm protectively around his sister. Whatever had happened, they were united, which was both comforting and concerning. At home, Lily went straight to her room. Emily followed, sitting on the edge of the bed while her daughter changed into pajamas even though it was barely 4 in the afternoon. Ready to talk about it? Emily asked gently. Lily sat cross-legged on the bed, picking at a loose thread on her comforter. Claire was showing me pictures of wedding dresses, asking if I'd be a bridesmaid, she began, her voice small. And I said yes because I didn't know what else to say. Then we were shopping, and she was being all nice, buying me stuff, saying how we're going to be a family now. Emily nodded, trying to keep her expression neutral despite the twisting in her gut. And then, Lily's voice caught. Then she said she hoped she'd be a better mom to me than you, since she'd actually be around instead of working all the time. Emily felt as if the air had been knocked from her lungs. She said that. She said Dad told her how you were always too busy for us even before the divorce. How you chose your career over family. Tears welled in Lily's eyes again. Is that true? Is that why Dad left? No, Emily said firmly, taking Lily's hands in hers. That is absolutely not true. Your dad and I had problems, but my working was never one of them. I've always put you and Ryan first. Lily seemed to search her face for the truth. Then why did Claire say that? I don't know, Emily admitted. But people sometimes say hurtful things when they're insecure. Claire might be worried about how you'll accept her in your life. I don't want her in my life. Lily burst out. I don't want Dad to marry her. I want things to go back to how they were. Emily pulled her daughter into a hug, feeling the sobs shake her small frame. I know, sweetie. I know. Later, after Lily had fallen asleep, Emily found Ryan in the kitchen making a sandwich. He looked up when she entered, his eyes serious beyond his years. Is she okay? He asked. Emily sighed, leaning against the counter. She will be. You knew something was wrong at Dad's, didn't you? Before we even got there. Ryan nodded, focusing intently on spreading mayonnaise. Lily texted me from the bathroom. Said Claire was being fake nice, then said something that made her cry. He set down the knife with deliberate care. I hate them, Mom. Both of them. Ryan, no. Listen. he interrupted, looking up with an intensity that startled her. There's something you don't know. About Dad and Claire. Emily's stomach dropped. What is it? They didn't start seeing each other after he left, Ryan said, his voice flat. They've been together for almost 2 years. I saw them once, at the mall, like a year before the divorce. They were holding hands, and she kissed him. I thought maybe it was a work thing, that I was misunderstanding. But then when everything happened with the divorce, he trailed off, looking miserable. Emily felt as if the floor were tilting beneath her. 2 years. Not 6 months, not even a year. 2 years of lies. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, working to keep her voice steady. Ryan shrugged, suddenly looking very young despite his height. I didn't want to hurt you. And then after Dad left, it didn't seem to matter anymore. Emily crossed the kitchen and hugged her son tightly. I'm so sorry you've been carrying that around. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, he mumbled against her shoulder. You have nothing to be sorry for, Emily assured him. Nothing. After Ryan went to bed, Emily sat at the kitchen table with her phone, thumb hovering over Robert's number. She was angry. Angrier than she'd been even during the worst of their divorce. But confronting him tonight wouldn't help anyone, least of all the kids. Instead, she texted Tom. Rain check on tomorrow's committee meeting? Family situation needs my attention. His response came quickly. No problem. Everything okay? Emily stared at the question for a long moment. Was anything okay? Her ex-husband had been cheating for years, not months. Her children were hurting in ways she couldn't easily fix. Her financial situation was precarious at best. And yet, sitting there in her quiet kitchen, Emily realized she felt different than she had 6 months ago when Robert first left. The pain was still there, but it no longer defined her. She had built something here, a new life, imperfect and challenging but undeniably hers. She typed back, getting there, one day at a time. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she added, maybe coffee later this week instead? As she waited for his response, Emily thought about what Margaret had said. It doesn't get easier. It gets different. The words felt truer now than ever before. Different didn't mean worse. Different could mean stronger, wiser, more authentic. Different could mean finding out what Emily Harrington wanted, not just what everyone else needed from her. Her phone lit up with Tom's reply. I'd like that. Name the time and place. Emily smiled, feeling something like hope unfurling in her chest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Conversations with Robert about boundaries, with Lily about building resilience, with Ryan about unburdening himself of secrets. But tonight, in this quiet moment, Emily allowed herself to believe that different might actually be better after all. Emily's hands gripped the steering wheel as she pulled into the parking lot of Cornerstone Cafe, a neutral territory she'd chosen for this conversation. Robert was already there, sitting at an outdoor table, checking his watch, always impatient, always acting like his time was worth more than hers. 3 days had passed since the incident with Lily, and Emily had spent them carefully planning what to say. She slid into the chair across from him, declining the menu the waitress offered. This won't take long. Robert frowned. Is this about Lily? I've called her multiple times, but she won't answer. Claire feels terrible about what happened. 2 years, Emily said flatly, watching his face. You've been seeing Claire for 2 years, not 6 months. Not after our marriage was already in trouble, long before that. The color drained from Robert's face. He opened his mouth, closed it, then seemed to deflate. Who told you? Does it matter? It's true, isn't it? He looked down at his coffee. It wasn't planned, Em. These things just don't. Emily cut him off. Don't give me the these things happen speech. These things don't just happen. You made choices, Robert. For 2 years, you made the choice to lie to me every single day. A couple at a nearby table glanced over, and Emily lowered her voice. I didn't come here to rehash our marriage. What's done is done. I'm here because Claire told our 14-year-old daughter that I was a neglectful mother who chose work over family. Robert winced. Claire didn't mean it like that. She was trying to connect with Lily. By insulting me. Emily shook her head in disbelief. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Claire that if she ever says anything remotely negative about me to our children again, she won't be welcome around them at all. You can't do that, Robert protested. I have custody rights. Shared custody, Emily corrected. And I'm pretty sure a family court judge would be very interested to hear about Claire's comments. Not to mention the psychological impact on Lily of having her future stepmother badmouth her mother. Robert ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it gave Emily an unexpected pang of nostalgia for the man she thought she'd married. All right, I'll talk to her. But you need to talk to the kids about giving Claire a chance. The wedding is happening, Emily. They need to accept that. No, Emily said, surprising herself with how calm she felt. That's not my responsibility. If you want the kids to accept Claire, then you and Claire need to earn their trust and respect. That's on you, not me. She stood up, ready to leave, but Robert caught her arm. Emily, wait. We need to figure this out. For the kids. I've spent 16 years figuring things out for the kids, Robert. Now I'm figuring things out for me. She gently removed his hand. You can start by explaining to Lily why you lied about Claire. She deserves the truth, not more excuses. As Emily walked back to her car, she felt lighter somehow, as if confronting Robert had released a weight she'd been carrying. She checked her watch. She had just enough time to get to the high school before the end of Ryan's art club meeting. The classroom was bright with afternoon sunlight when she arrived. Students were packing up supplies, chatting, and comparing sketches. Ryan stood by the window with a tall man Emily recognized as Mr. Bennett, the art teacher. They were looking at a large sketchbook, both nodding seriously. Mrs. Harrington, Mr. Bennett greeted her as she approached. Perfect timing. I was just discussing the MFA summer program with Ryan. His portfolio is coming along wonderfully. Ryan looked up, not quite embarrassed, but clearly enthused to such praise. It's not that big a deal, Mom. It absolutely is, Mr. Bennett countered. The Museum of Fine Arts only accepts 20 students each year for this program. Ryan has real talent. He flipped through the sketchbook to show Emily a series of charcoal drawings, urban landscapes, detailed and somewhat melancholic. Emily studied them, genuinely impressed. These are beautiful, Ryan. There's just one issue, Mr. Bennett continued. The program costs $2,800 for the 6 weeks. There are scholarships available, but even with partial funding, it's still a significant investment. Another expense. Emily's mind automatically went to her budget spreadsheet, the numbers that never quite balanced. But the hope in Ryan's eyes, carefully restrained as if he was already preparing for disappointment, made her push those thoughts aside. We'll figure it out, she promised. This is important. Later, as they drove home, Ryan was unusually talkative, explaining the techniques he was learning, the artists who inspired him. Emily listened, asking questions, noticing how animation transformed his normally guarded face. I was thinking, she said during a lull, maybe you could show your work to your dad this weekend. He might be interested in helping with the summer program costs. Ryan's expression immediately shuddered. I don't want his money. Ryan, no, Mom. I mean it. I don't want anything from him. His voice was hard. I got a job, by the way, stocking shelves at the art supply store on Cambridge Street. The owner likes my work, lets me use the fancy supplies sometimes after hours. Emily glanced at her son, surprised. When did this happen? Last week. I was going to tell you, but then all the stuff with Lily happened. He shrugged. It's only 3 afternoons a week, and it doesn't interfere with school. I can help with bills and save for the program myself. Emily pulled into their driveway and turned off the engine, turning to face Ryan. I appreciate that, but you don't need to help with bills. You're 16. Your job is to be 16. Ryan looked at her directly, his face serious. You're working double shifts at the hospital. Lily told me you were looking at cheaper apartments. I'm not blind, Mom. Emily sighed. She'd tried so hard to shield them from financial worries, but kids always knew more than adults gave them credit for. We're okay, Ryan. It's tight right now, but we're going to be fine. I know we are, he said with surprising confidence. Because we have each other. And I can be useful too. Inside, they found Lily curled up on the couch with Margaret, looking through an old photo album. Margaret came over most afternoons now, a routine that had developed organically since the divorce. Look at these, Lily said, pointing to photos of a much younger Emily in a graduation cap and gown. Mom was so pretty. Emily feigned offense, making Lily giggle. Margaret stood, gathering her cardigan. I should head home. Walter gets cranky if I don't feed him by 6. Walter? Emily asked, confused. Margaret lived alone. My new cat, Margaret explained. Orange Tabby. Opinionated. You should come meet him sometime. She patted Emily's arm. Oh, and Tom Harrison called the landline looking for you. Said your cell went straight to voicemail. Something about committee notes. After Margaret left, Emily checked her phone and found it dead. She'd forgotten to charge it last night. As she plugged it in, she noticed Lily watching her with a knowing look. Mr. Harrison, huh? Lily said, her voice teasing for the first time in days. Jessica says he's the hottest teacher at school. For an old guy. He's not old. Emily protested automatically, then caught herself. I mean, we're just working on the community center project together. Ryan made a sound suspiciously like a snort from the kitchen. Right? That's why you're blushing. Emily touched her cheeks, which did indeed feel warm. I am not. Both of you homework. Now. But as her phone came back to life, lighting up with a text from Tom asking if she was still on for coffee tomorrow, Emily couldn't help smiling. Maybe her children were right. Maybe there was something there worth exploring. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Kate. Mom and Dad arriving next week. Surprise visit. Brace yourself. The smile faded from Emily's face. Her parents. Just what this situation needed. 2 more opinions on how she should be handling her life. Emily looked at the calendar on the fridge, suddenly feeling the calm she'd achieved beginning to slip away. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, the dance of her life these days. But then Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding the photo album open to a picture of Emily as a child, standing between her parents at a 4th of July parade. Grandma looks just like you, she said. Do you think I'll look like both of you when I'm older? The simple question, the normalcy of it, brought Emily back to the present. I think you'll look like yourself, she said, pulling Lily close. And that's the most beautiful thing you could be. Patricia and Gerald Winters descended upon Boston like a hurricane making landfall, full of energy, opinions, and well-intentioned meddling. They arrived at Emily's house with 4 suitcases despite planning to stay at Kate's, bearing gifts and southern Florida tans that looked almost radioactive against the pale New England spring. The house looks cozy, Patricia remarked, which in her vocabulary meant small and underwhelming. She peered into the living room, where mismatched furniture told the story of a hasty division of possessions. Have you thought about slipcovers? They can hide a multitude of sins. Emily breathed deeply, counting to 5. It's good to see you too, Mom. Gerald was already in the kitchen, opening and closing cabinets with the authority of someone who had strong opinions about organization. Your garbage disposal is making a funny noise. I'll take a look at it later. Dad, it's fine. You don't need to. Nonsense, he waved her off. What else am I here for if not to fix things? Things. Not people, not situations, not broken hearts or shattered plans. Gerald Winters fixed toasters and leaky faucets and loose cabinet hinges. Emotions were Patricia's department, and she approached them with the subtle finesse of a bulldozer. Where are my grandchildren? Patricia asked, already heading for the stairs. I've brought them presents from Disney World. Emily followed her parents' whirlwind entrance with resignation. It had been like this her entire life. Her father's need to fix physical objects, her mother's drive to rearrange lives, and Emily caught in the middle, both grateful for and suffocated by their love. Lily was delighted by the attention, showing off her room to Patricia and eagerly opening the gifts. A Minnie Mouse sweatshirt that would probably never leave the closet and a charm bracelet that was actually quite pretty. Ryan was more reserved, accepting his grandfather's firm handshake and his grandmother's crushing hug with stoic politeness before retreating to his room with the sketch set they'd brought him. He's at that age, Gerald said knowingly, as if teenage boys were a species he'd studied extensively. By evening, Emily was already exhausted, and the real challenge hadn't even begun. Sunday dinner at Kate's, all of them together, with Michael holding court and Kate orchestrating perfection. Emily changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that Patricia had once said brought out her eyes. You look nice, Mom, Lily said from the doorway of Emily's bedroom. She had put on the charm bracelet despite having declared earlier that it was a bit childish. Thanks, sweetie. Emily smiled at her daughter's reflection in the mirror. Ready for the full family circus? Lily made a face. Grandma already asked me if I've heard from Dad today. Emily sighed. She doesn't mean anything by it. She just doesn't know what to say sometimes. She said you should consider reconciliation for the sake of the family. Lily's voice was carefully neutral. I told her Dad's getting married in June. Emily turned to face her daughter fully. You don't need to defend me to Grandma, Lily. That's not your job. Then whose job is it? Lily asked with surprising intensity. Everyone acts like Dad did nothing wrong. Even Aunt Kate said maybe you two could have tried harder. The revelation stung, though it wasn't entirely surprising. Emily's family had always placed immense value on the institution of marriage. When cousins divorced, there were whispers. When friends separated, there were theories about what went wrong, what should have been done differently. Emily had grown up believing marriage was forever, no matter what. People have different perspectives, Emily said carefully. But what matters is that you and Ryan know that sometimes, even when people try their hardest, relationships don't work out. And that's no one's fault. Lily looked skeptical. It's Dad's fault. He's the one who cheated. Emily couldn't argue with that basic truth, but she also didn't want her children to carry bitterness as their inheritance. Life is complicated, Lily. People are complicated. Even Dad. Kate's house was ablaze with lights when they arrived, every window seemingly designed to showcase the perfect family tableau within. Emily parked behind her parents' rental car and took a moment to collect herself before heading inside. Remember, she said to Ryan and Lily, minimum 1 hour. Then we can make an excuse if you want to leave. Ryan rolled his eyes. Great. 1 hour of Uncle Michael talking about investments and the twins showing off their trophies. Be nice, Emily warned, but she was smiling. Having her children as allies in this particular social battlefield made it slightly more bearable. Inside, Kate had outdone herself. The dining room table was set with crystal and silver, candles flickering, flowers artfully arranged. Michael was mixing drinks, telling their father about some new client, while Gerald nodded with the exaggerated interest of someone who had tuned out 5 minutes ago. The twins, impeccably dressed in matching polo shirts, were demonstrating some kind of synchronized iPad game for Patricia. There you are. Kate swooped in, air-kissing Emily's cheeks. I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost. Her perfect smile didn't reach her eyes, which were already assessing, cataloging, judging. Lily, Ryan, the boys are in the den. They've been asking for you. This was a transparent lie. Emily's nephews had little interest in their older cousins, but it effectively removed the children from the adult conversation. With a sympathetic glance at their mother, Ryan and Lily dutifully headed for the den. Wine. Kate steered Emily toward the kitchen without waiting for an answer. I opened that Pinot Noir you like. In the kitchen, away from the others, Kate's composure slipped slightly. Mom's been driving me crazy, she confessed, pouring 2 generous glasses. She rearranged my pantry this morning while I was at the gym. Said my organizational system was counterintuitive. Emily laughed, feeling a moment of genuine connection with her sister. Dad's fixed 3 things at my house already, including the garbage disposal that wasn't actually broken. Kate handed her a glass. Remember when they visited after I had the twins? Dad installed a ceiling fan in the nursery without asking, and Mom redecorated while I was in the hospital. They mean well, Emily said, the familiar refrain of their adult lives. They're worried about you, Kate replied, her tone shifting back to the slightly patronizing one Emily had grown used to since the divorce. We all are. Emily sipped her wine, deciding to head off the coming lecture. I'm fine, Kate. Really. The kids are adjusting, work is good, I'm even dating a little. Kate's eyebrows shot up. The history teacher? That's actually happening. Tom? Yes. We've had coffee a few times, and he's coming to Ryan's art showcase next week. Emily felt a small thrill saying it aloud, making it real. Well, Kate said, clearly processing this information. That's good. Fast but good. Emily bit back a retort about how fast Robert had moved on. Instead, she changed the subject. How's the practice? Still thinking about adding another hygienist. By the time they rejoined the others, Kate had shared extensive details about her dental practice's expansion plans, and Emily had successfully avoided further discussion of her personal life. Dinner progressed with the predictable rhythm of family gatherings. Gerald told the same stories he always told. Patricia asked prying questions thinly disguised as concern, and Michael dominated the conversation with opinions no one had asked for. I'm just saying, Michael was explaining as they finished dessert, real estate in this area is only going to appreciate. Emily, you should consider downsizing to a condo now, investing the difference, and riding the market up. Michael, Kate warned quietly. What? It's good advice, he defended, especially for someone in Emily's situation. Single income, 2 dependents, uncertain future. Emily set down her fork carefully. My future isn't uncertain, Michael. It's just different than what I expected. Patricia jumped in, patting Emily's hand. Of course, dear. And you know we're always here to help. Your father and I were thinking, maybe you should consider moving to Florida near us. The cost of living is so much lower, and we could help with the children. Mom, Emily and Kate said simultaneously, then glanced at each other in surprised solidarity. I'm not moving to Florida, Emily said firmly. My job is here, the kids' school is here, their friends are here. Their father is here, she added, though it pained her to acknowledge that as a benefit. I understand, but Patricia began. No, Emily interrupted, surprising herself with her firmness. I appreciate the concern, but I need to figure this out on my own terms. I'm not looking for rescuing. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Gerald cleared his throat. How about those Red Sox? He asked, a desperate bid to change the subject. Later, as they gathered their coats to leave, Gerald pulled Emily aside. Your mother means well, he said quietly. She just doesn't know how to show it sometimes. Emily nodded, softening. I know, Dad. And for what it's worth, he continued, his weathered face serious, I think you're handling everything just fine. Better than fine. You've got grit, always have. He glanced toward Ryan and Lily, who were saying goodbye to their cousins. And those two? They're turning out just right. It was the closest thing to explicit approval Emily had ever received from her stoic father, and it brought unexpected tears to her eyes. Thanks, Dad. In the car heading home, Ryan broke the silence. That wasn't as bad as usual. Lily nodded agreement. Uncle Michael only mentioned his golf score twice. Emily laughed, feeling a wave of affection for her children and their ability to find humor in these situations. Small victories. Grandpa showed me how to fix the wobbly leg on my desk, Ryan added. And he didn't ask about Dad even once. He asked me, Lily said, but not in a weird way. He just wanted to know if Dad was being nice to me. I said mostly. Emily glanced at her children. In the rearview mirror, struck by how resilient they were, how capable of navigating complex adult emotions while still being fundamentally teenagers. They were adapting, finding their way through this new landscape. Maybe she could too. Her phone buzzed with a text. Tom, hope the family dinner survived. Coffee tomorrow. Emily smiled, feeling a flutter of anticipation. Yes, she typed back. I think I've earned it. As they pulled into their driveway, Emily noticed something different. The porch light had been fixed, the one that had been flickering for months. Gerald must have taken care of it without mentioning it. A small gesture, but one that symbolized something important. Support without intrusion, help without judgment. Home sweet home, Lily sighed as they walked up the path. Emily put an arm around each of her children. Yes, she agreed. It really is. The art showcase was held in the high school gymnasium, transformed for the evening with movable walls displaying student work. Ryan's pieces, a series of charcoal cityscapes showing Boston from unusual angles, had been given a prominent position near the entrance. Emily stood a few feet away, pretending to examine a colorful abstract painting while actually watching her son explain his work to an attentive Tom Harrison. He's really talented, Margaret said, appearing beside her with a plastic cup of punch. Walter agrees. Emily raised an eyebrow. Walter? Your cat. I tell him about your family, Margaret admitted with no trace of embarrassment. He's a very good listener. She nodded toward Tom and Ryan. That one's good too. A listener, I mean. Emily couldn't argue with that. In the weeks since their first coffee meeting, Tom had proven to be exactly what she hadn't known she needed. Someone who paid attention, who asked questions and remembered the answers, who didn't try to solve her problems but simply acknowledged them. It's not serious, Emily found herself saying, though Margaret hadn't asked. Of course not, Margaret agreed easily. Neither was Harold, until one day he was. She squeezed Emily's arm gently. Just be open to possibilities, dear. That's all any of us can do. Across the room, Lily was with Jessica, both girls giggling over something on Jessica's phone. The past month had been easier. No more dramatic incidents with Robert or Claire, no more tearful calls to be picked up early. The wedding plans continued, but seemed to have receded as an immediate threat in Lily's mind. Mr. Bennett, the art teacher, approached with a tall woman in an elegant pantsuit. Mrs. Harrington, this is Diane Mercer from the Museum of Fine Arts. She's very interested in Ryan's work. After introductions, Diane got straight to the point. Ryan's portfolio is exceptional for his age. Mr. Bennett tells me he's considering our summer program. Yes, Emily confirmed. He's very excited about it. As he should be, Diane smiled. I'm actually here to discuss scholarship opportunities. We have a new full-ride grant for promising local artists, and I'd like to nominate Ryan. Emily felt a weight lift from her shoulders. One less financial worry. One more affirmation that her son's talent was real and recognized. That would be incredible. Thank you. Don't thank me, Diane said. His work earned this. I particularly love the series he's doing on transitional spaces, the half-demolished buildings, construction sites, places in flux. There's something very poignant about how he captures change. After Diane left to speak with other students, Emily found herself blinking back tears. Places in flux. That described their lives perfectly. Not broken, just in transition, becoming something new. Tom appeared at her side, 2 cups of punch in hand. Ryan's a remarkable kid, he said, offering her one. Very grounded about his talent. The MFA is offering him a scholarship, Emily told him, unable to keep the pride from her voice. I heard, Tom smiled. Diane's a friend of mine. I might have put in a good word. Not that he needed it. He paused, looking slightly nervous. I hope that's okay. I know you value your independence, and I didn't want to overstep. The fact that he understood this about her, that he recognized her need to stand on her own while still offering support, made something warm unfurl in Emily's chest. It's more than okay, she assured him. It's thoughtful. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Emily turned to see Robert and Claire arriving, both dressed with the slightly excessive formality of people trying too hard. Ryan, spotting them, immediately stiffened. Lily's smile faltered. I didn't know they were coming, Emily said, tension creeping back into her shoulders. Want me to create a distraction? Tom offered. I know some pretty embarrassing historical jokes. The offer, so earnest and absurd, made Emily laugh despite her anxiety. I think we'll be okay, but keep those jokes on standby. She watched as Robert approached Ryan, Claire hovering uncertainly a few steps behind. Ryan's posture remained rigid, but he didn't walk away. Progress, of a sort. Lily joined them, her greeting to Claire visibly strained but civil. More progress. Emily stayed where she was, giving them space. This was Ryan's night, and he needed to navigate these waters himself. She had to trust that he could handle it, that both her children were developing the resilience to face these uncomfortable new realities. They're doing fine, Tom said quietly, seeming to read her thoughts. You've raised them well. Eventually, Robert made his way over to Emily, alone. Claire had wisely remained with the kids, examining Ryan's artwork with exaggerated interest. His work is impressive, Robert said, hands in his pockets. Though I don't understand why he draws so many old buildings. They tell a story, Emily replied. About change, impermanence, resilience. Robert nodded, looking thoughtful for once. The kids seem better, more settled. They're adapting, Emily acknowledged. We all are. An awkward silence fell between them, the kind that happens when 2 people who once knew everything about each other become strangers with a shared history. Listen, Robert finally said. I know things have been difficult, but I wanted to tell you in person, Claire and I are moving to Chicago after the wedding. My firm is opening a new office there, and they want me to head it up. The news hit Emily like a physical blow. Chicago? What about the kids? What about your custody agreement? We'll work something out, Robert said, as if discussing vacation plans rather than a seismic shift in their children's lives. They can visit during school breaks, and we'll come back for holidays. That's not the same as being present in their lives, Robert. They need consistency, especially now. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I know the timing isn't ideal, but this is a huge opportunity for my career. The kids will understand. Emily doubted that very much, but she also recognized the futility of this argument. Robert had always prioritized what he wanted, dressing it up in justifications that sounded reasonable on the surface. She'd spent years believing those justifications, making excuses for his absences, his forgotten promises, his gradual withdrawal from family life. When are you planning to tell them? She asked instead. After the wedding, he said. I don't want to complicate things right now. You mean you don't want them upset with you during the wedding? Emily translated. Robert flushed. That's not fair. No, Emily agreed. None of this is fair. But it's happening anyway, and they deserve to know the truth. All of it, Robert. Not just the parts that make you look good. Before he could respond, Mr. Bennett called for everyone's attention, announcing the winners of various awards. Ryan received honorable mention in the Cityscape category, prompting genuine smiles from both his parents despite their tension. In that moment, Emily felt a strange sense of peace. They would always be connected through their children, always share this pride, even if everything else between them had shattered. Later that night, after the showcase, Emily sat on the front porch swing with Tom. The spring evening was mild, the neighborhood quiet except for distant traffic and the occasional dog bark. They had said little on the drive home, a comfortable silence that required no filling. "Robert's moving to Chicago," Emily said finally. After the wedding, Tom nodded slowly. "How do you feel about that?" It was such a simple question, but one that Robert had never thought to ask. How did she feel? Emily considered it carefully. Angry for the kids, worried about how they'll handle it. She paused, realizing there was another emotion underneath. And strangely, relieved. "Is that terrible?" "No," Tom said simply. "It's honest." They sat in silence for another moment, the porch swing creaking softly. "I have a confession," Tom said eventually. "When we first met at that community meeting, I already knew who you were. Ryan had mentioned his mom was a nurse, and I'd seen you at a parent-teacher conference last fall. I'd been wanting to talk to you for months." Emily turned to look at him, surprised. "Why didn't you say anything?" He shrugged, looking slightly embarrassed. "You seem to have a lot going on. I didn't want to add to it." He met her eyes. "And I wanted to do it right, when the time was right." Inside the house, a light flicked on in Ryan's room. Soon the sounds of his music would filter through the partially open window, his nighttime ritual. Lily was already asleep, exhausted from the excitement of the evening. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, telling the kids about Chicago, figuring out summer plans now that Emily's custody time would be even more precious, continuing to balance work and family in this new, fragile thing growing between her and Tom. But tonight, sitting on the porch of the house that was finally beginning to feel like home again, Emily allowed herself to simply be present in this moment. Not defined by her divorce, not consumed by worry for her children, not haunted by what might have been. "I think," she said slowly, "the time might be right now." Tom's hand found hers on the swing between them, warm and steady. "I think so too." In the months since Robert had left, Emily had focused on survival, getting through each day, holding her family together, keeping her head above water. She hadn't allowed herself to imagine thriving again, finding joy again, opening her heart again. But here it was, a beginning she hadn't seen coming, growing from the ashes of what she'd thought was an ending. Inside, Ryan's music started playing, not the angry, pulsing beats he'd favored after the divorce, but something softer, more melodic. Change, impermanence, resilience. The themes of his artwork, the story of their lives now. "Would you like to come to dinner tomorrow?" Emily asked. "With the kids?" "Nothing fancy, just spaghetti probably, but I'd love to." Tom interrupted gently. "Spaghetti sounds perfect." As they sat together, making plans for a future that felt both unexpected and right, Emily thought about the conversation she would have with Ryan and Lily tomorrow. It wouldn't be easy telling them about their father's move, but she would be honest with them, trust them with the truth, help them navigate yet another change. And maybe, just maybe, she would also tell them about this new beginning, not as a replacement for what they'd lost, but as evidence that life continued to unfold in surprising ways, that happiness could be found again in different forms, that families could reshape themselves around love and remain strong. The porch light cast a warm glow around them, fixed now thanks to her father's quiet act of care. Moths fluttered around it, drawn to its steadiness in the darkening night. Emily squeezed Tom's hand lightly, feeling an answering pressure in return, and allowed herself to believe in new possibilities. The future was uncertain. It always had been, though she hadn't recognized that until everything fell apart. But uncertainty also meant possibility, chance, hope. Tonight, sitting in this gentle light with the knowledge of hard conversations to come, but also the promise of new connections forming, Emily chose to embrace that uncertainty and the gifts it might bring. "I should go," Tom said eventually, though he made no move to leave. "It's getting late." "Stay a little longer," Emily replied. "Just a little longer." And so they did, Two people finding each other in the midst of life's complexities, creating something new while honoring what came before. Inside, her children slept, carried through their dreams by the resilience they'd inherited and the love that surrounded them still, changed but undiminished. Tomorrow would come with its challenges, but tonight was for new beginnings.